Other than instances of resistance through violence, like that of the Kelbashan rebels, the Jews of Treblinka also resisted through escape attempts. While lots were unsuccessful, there was a handful of Jews that managed to escape Treblinka prior to Stangl's arrival, in the midst of Imfred Ebel's incompetent reign as commandant. During the Ebel era, the most common way for one to escape was to conceal themselves under a pile of clothing that was present on a newly arrived transport. If undiscovered, the escapee would then be sent back towards Warsaw and could try to escape the carriage on the way. Given that the guard escort would be far less vigilant on return trips, escape attempts from Jews hidden in these carts would hence be far easier. Simcha Lasky, who was taken from Warsaw to Treblinka at the end of July 1942, during the camp's first week of deportations, detailed his escape as follows. On the fourth day, a train came with empty cars. We loaded the cars with packages of clothing and underwear. I decided to hide in one of the cars. As I stepped into the car with the package of clothing, I burrowed under a pile of clothes. I heard how they closed and locked the carts. I took a chance and stuck my head out of the pile of clothing so that I could breathe a little air. To my great surprise, I saw another head stick out from the pile of clothes. We exchanged a few words. Later, we discovered another two boys in the car. One was my friend Borstein. They had all chosen this particular cart because the small aperture was not barred. We decided to jump from the speeding train because if we reached Lublin or Warsaw, they would catch us as we unloaded and inevitably shoot us. New Lukov, two of the lads jumped, and immediately after we heard shots. I was already apathetic to the notion of being shot. I left the car and hung on the windowsill. I then pushed off from the train and jumped. As a result of the fall, I fractured my leg and scratched my face. After a short time walking, I met Borstein, and, after continuing a bit more near the track, we found the other two, who were no longer alive. After 2 weeks of wandering, we finally reached Warsaw again. It happened to be on the day of the Children's Action. Other than escaping through the cattle carts, the summer of 1942 also saw Jews breaking out through the camp's non-electrified perimeter fence and dispersing into the woods or heading towards local towns and ghettos. The camp elder at the time, Alfred or Marceli Galewski, whose forename is disputed among survivor testimony, would often help to cover such escapes, by grabbing whatever number of men was necessary from new transports to replace the escapees, so that the SS would not suspect anything at a roll call. Surprisingly, the SS were not overly bothered by such escapes initially, rationalising that most of these Jews would simply be recaptured and possibly even redeported to one of the Aktion Reinhardt death camps. They were, however, paranoid about the secret of Treblinka being disseminated across any of the major ghettos, logically fearing that a large collective of people who felt like they had nothing to lose would be very dangerous. Indeed, it was some of the escapees from Treblinka during the Ebel era that were major catalysts for the Jewish Combat Organization, or the ZOB, taking action in Warsaw in 1943. People with nothing to lose are always the most dangerous, as evidenced by events like the revolts at Sobibór, Treblinka, and even more contemporary instances, like the passenger revolt on Flight 93. Thus, following Stangl's major reforms to the camp in September 1942, the prospect of escaping Treblinka became far harder. Transports were searched more thoroughly before departing Treblinka, and the selection process was far more controlled, making it far harder to sneak away from a group destined for the gas chambers. Given such circumstances, escape attempts in the Stangl era were far more creative, and as a result, more risky. One particularly notable example took place on New Year's Eve 1942, in the extermination area of the camp. At the beginning of December 1942, 7 of the Toten Juden in the upper camp of Treblinka began digging a tunnel from their barracks, carving a path under the perimeter fence, which was a mere 5 meters away. Despite there being roughly 250 other men in their barracks, the tunnel digging secret was remarkably upheld for the duration of the month, allowing for an escape attempt on December the 31st, when the inmates rationalised that the SS would likely be drinking and celebrating. As night fell, the men began their escape, with 5 of them managing to escape by the tunnel before the Treblinka sentries realised what was happening. An alarm was raised, and a manhunt ensued. The SS tracked the escapees down to a nearby village, and immediately shot one of them, as he resisted capture. Of the other 4 that remained, 3 were immediately recaptured and brought back to Treblinka, but they were publicly hanged during a roll call. Therefore, only 1 man survived the manhunt and escaped Treblinka successfully during the New Year's Eve escape. His name was Lazar Sharsam, and his escape proved to be disastrous for the SS. After evading recapture, Sharsam returned to the Warsaw ghetto and joined the ZOB, the Jewish fighting organisation. Emboldened by his experiences in Treblinka, Sharsam commanded a group of combatants during the uprising, a figure of inspiration for his kin, as a man who had escaped from the maw of annihilation.